Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome, all you poetry fans, to yet another episode of what I am now calling Poetry Unboxing. And by poetry unboxing, I don't mean that I literally unbox poetry. What I mean is that I metaphorically, literally unbox poetry. So I'm doing literal unboxing metaphorically, if that's clear enough for you. I'm sure that all of you who knows poetry would get that. Anyway. So that means this is the series of videos where I don't just recite poetry, which I will do more of, by the way. I have missed doing that. And well, I do. I mean, I read for myself, but I missed making more videos about it. And but this is the series of videos where I will talk about the actual books that the poetry comes in. I will talk about poets. I will talk about poetry in general, about literary concepts. And I do have an idea that I will make a video about the ancient Greek literary concept of, not just literary, but the ancient Greek concept of hubris as it pertains to the epics, the Odyssey, the Iliad, the tragedies, of course, Sophocles, Oedipus the King, and all those ones, Euripides. Because if you understand the ancient Greek concept of hubris, you actually know a lot about what the sort of the superstructure, I think, the background, one of the main sort of frameworks or the background for the Greek tragedies and for the epics. And it's such a fundamental concept, and it's a very specific thing as well. And so I thought I'd say something about that. Now, well, no, that's not how I was supposed to start that bit. As usual, no scripts. I don't you do scripts. So how do I find out what books to buy? I mean, I just bought a book here. How do I know which poets I want to read? And I can just show you now. I've actually got this absolute cracking huge brick of a book, which is Norton's Anthology of Poetry. A few thousand pages, 1,828 poems by 334 poets. So a lot of the greats from of the English language poetry there. Um, One of the ways that I discover new poems is by reading this book, and of course I notice which ones I like the best. Um, and then if there's somebody that I sort of consistently notice that I like a lot of their work, then I tend to sometimes go and get their collected poetical works, or at least a good anthology of their work, so that I have a much wider range of their poems available to me, because often what I like is not what the editors of the Norton anthology likes. My tastes are slightly different, I think, to the academical circles sometimes, um, and and so that's one way I do it. Another way is I go to my local Waterstones, my local bookshop in town, and I have a good browse, because they have quite a good selection of poetry, I must say. And although I do tend to go for the 19th century, early 20th century poets. Sometimes I have a look at other stuff too, and sometimes it does appeal to me, other times it doesn't. But it's a nice way to sort of find new things, because you really have to read it. And I could do this online, but the thing is, I just can't read poems on the screen. It has to be on paper. It doesn't feel right reading it on the screen. I don't know what it is about poetry. It's very hard to read on the screen. It's like the screen adds another layer of distance between you and the words. It's quite bizarre. So I want when I read poetry, it really needs to be words written, printed on a page. It certainly makes it a lot easier to get into, I think. So recently I did a video about Bashor's haiku when I bought a book about that, which I will read more as well. And this week I bought another book, and it's one that I've actually thought about buying for a while. But the thing is, when you look online and you look for, certainly for older printed versions of poetry, or even newer ones sometimes too. They're not always laid out in a nice way. Sometimes they use a slightly wonky font. Sometimes in collections, they tend to have 2 columns for a poetry collection. Yeah, what's that about? I know they're trying to fit a lot of stuff into a short space, especially with the very prolific writers like Wordsworth, for instance. But I want something that is legible. And in that sense, this one was quite a good one. This is, of course, you know what it is because you read the title, didn't you? Clever so-and-so. So this is Tennyson, and this is his poetical works, Lord Tennyson, circa 1924. Cost a princely sum of 20p when it was new, and this is a Christmas present. 1924 to 25, it says here, from Mother with love. Oh, isn't that nice? Although interestingly, it says mother and not mum, so I presume that's shows a certain status, I suppose. Mother, that's sort of more, a little bit more posh, isn't it? To call your mum mother. Now, Tennyson, of course, is one of my favorite 19th century poets, I think. I don't really like, I mean, lots of people like Shelley and they like Keats and they like Byron. I don't know, I've never really warmed up to them so much. Maybe Keats a little bit, but I'm not sure about Shelley, and Byron is okay, I guess. But still, I don't think they hold a candle to Tennyson, certainly not in the style that I prefer to read. Tennyson, of course, his poetry is a little bit more lyrical. There tend to be shorter lines. Although sometimes he does a thing with rhymes that is a little bit unusual. He likes to not just have 2 lines have end rhymes in a row. Sometimes you have 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 lines in a row that rhyme, which is very unusual. But it actually works, especially if you go to a poem like The Lady of Shalott. I'll just see if I can find that now. I think it should be around here somewhere. If I remember correctly. No, it's 100 and... let's see. And 20, no. I thought I knew where it was, but now it turns out I actually didn't. Now, while I find it, some of the things that Tennyson used to write about was, perhaps one of his main things was Arthurian legends. So King Arthur, Guinevere, Lancelot, all of those characters from Arthurian legend, or from the fictional Arthurian legend, I should say. Which is still quite nice, actually, the fictional stories, of course. There may or may not have been a king called Arthur, but whatever the case is, all the stories about him are completely fictional. Sorry if anyone believed in them. But the one I'm looking for is The Lady of Shalott, first of all, page 52. Because he does that thing that I don't think anyone else does that, do they? Or did that? I mean, it's so unusual to see. So, if I just do the second verse here. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver, through the wave that runs forever, by the island in the river, flowing down the Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers, and the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. So he's doing 4 lines that rhyme, and then he's breaking it up with the Camelot, and then he's doing 3 lines that rhyme, and then he's got the Shalott. So it's Camelot, Shalott, and then it's 4 lines and 3 rhymes. It's a very unusual styling, but because it's broken up, with a shorter line that doesn't rhyme with it, it actually works really well. I think it has a very interesting flow to it. It's almost like a lullaby feel to it. It's very soothing to listen to, I think. And he's doing a bit of alliteration there as well, with the willows whiten. It's very good. So a bit of repetition, grey walls and grey towers. It's very well written, and it's quite a fascinating way to write it, because normally if you do that with all these lines in a row that rhyme, you don't get away with it so easily, because it doesn't sound, it starts sounding a bit childish very quickly. And it actually works in this one with... Now, of course, the reason I know The Lady of Shalott is because of Lorena McKennitt, who did a brilliant melody to it as well. So she's saying one of her longest songs, indeed, is called The Lady of Shalott, and she even has to cut out quite a few other verses because it is quite a long poem. But it's a very good poem, and certainly one of the ones that I like the best. Another one that I quite like is The Lotus Eaters. Of course, that is a reference from the Odyssey. So in addition to Arthurian legend, Tennyson wrote several poems based on the ancient Greek epics, so the Iliad and the Odyssey. And The Lotus Eaters, that is one of those. And I think we actually read that when I studied English. I think we have to read that one. And there's one that you would recognize from the Dead Poets Society as well, because in the Dead Poets Society there is a quote from Ulysses, again from the Odyssey, of course, Ulysses being the Latin version of the name Odysseus. And there's a bit there at the end, which of course was just the end of the poem that was in Dead Poets Society, and also it was truncated as well. So if I read the end now, you will recognize it, but you'll also recognize that there are some bits that weren't in the film. So it says here, "Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset, and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles, and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield." It's a very good ending. And yeah, I quite like that one as well. I like the whole poem, actually. It's very good. There's a poem here called Locksley Hall. I'm not sure if that is a reference to Robin Hood, because I haven't actually read it. I also haven't seen any mention of a robin in there as I passed by. Now, see, this is so long, actually, the lines do have to go across. But imagine if this was a double column anthology, then, of course, all these lines would have basically been split in half, which would have been somehow. And then there is, of course, let's see, The Princess. I'm not sure what that is about. There is In Memoriam. This is probably one of those ones. I think this is what many consider his magnum opus, his greatest work. And indeed, I don't know exactly where they are in the poem now, but I think some of the couplets, or even just the last two lines, which aren't couplets actually, because this is an ABBA rhyme scheme, I think some of them actually are quoted so much they've sort of become adages, sort of almost like sayings in the English language, and I can't remember which one they are now. where they are, but this is quite a long poem. This is basically, I think, Inmoriam was published as a whole book, indeed, as one long poem. So it's quite a, of course, somebody very close to him, I presume, that died, that he was somebody that meant a lot to him. And so he had a lot of emotion that needed to come out and of course, when a poet is emotional and then channels that emotion into words, that's often when the best poems actually take shape. So I have to read the whole of that, and I don't know where the well-known quotes are. So yeah, I'm not going to say too much about Tennyson, because if I wanted to have a full episode about Tennyson, I would do a bit more reading up first. But yeah, just to present, I've got this new book now. Well, when I say new, a new old book with a bit of nice gold embossed spine and gold on the pages there as well. And I was wondering if there was a... For a moment, it looked like there should be a bookmark there. No, actually, there shouldn't be. I don't think there was one. Okay, but that's the latest addition to my collection of poetry books, and just a few words about that, about Tennyson. So I will make other episodes about things like this as I go along, and also I will do more poetry readings, especially now that I've read a lot of Dorothy Parker, and I really like her stuff. So I'm going to definitely do some Dorothy Parker videos soon, and also Emily Bronte probably as well. So and I probably have to do some of Bashaw as well, because since I already talked about it, and I guess some Tennyson now as well. So yeah, it's lots of things to do really. I can never run out of poems to recite, I guess, and it's always something that I enjoy doing. So I think that's it for now. I think I'll leave it there. Don't want to make this too long for you. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you found it interesting in some way or form. Even though I'm just sort of rambling on now about Tennyson and a few of his poems, and about the book itself. To Mother with from sorry, not too much. From Mother with Love. Yes, indeed. So thanks for watching, and please like, share, subscribe, comment if you found something in this interesting, and I'll see you again in my next episode of whatever video you are watching next. So goodbye for now.